Computer. All right, guys, welcome. What we're going to talk about today is how to present a purchase contract to a buyer. So let me paint the picture. You just showed a property and the buyer said, hey, we absolutely love the house on 56th Street. Love it. And I say, awesome. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to the office or home or wherever it is that you're going to go. And I will draft it up and I will send it to you and we'll review it together. So ideally, what we'll do is we'll draft it in DocuSign and we then will hit send when we're already on the computer. In other words, we're ready and they're going to get into their inbox. Now, they don't necessarily need the contract yet because you're going to share your computer screen just like this. So what you're going to do is you're going to have the computer screen shared and now they're going to see the contract. So the first thing that I always ask the buyer is, can you see the numbers on the left-hand side? So Tony, we're going to be doing this together. You're unmuted, you're good. And if anybody has a question, we'll address it kind of in real time as if this was a real scenario.
Lee,
so,
this blank contract is where available?
The what?
The contract is available where?
In DocuSign.
Okay.
In DocuSign. DocuSign, which is inside of Command.
You got it.
In DocuSign. The contract is available in DocuSign.
Because the agent asked that question too, so that's why I want to make sure everybody gets it.
Yeah. You're going to draft the contract in DocuSign and you're going to hit send so that they have a copy of it so that they can execute it. But you're going to want to share your computer screen. You're going to want to share your computer screen so that they're seeing exactly what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Tony, you ready?
Yes.
Awesome. So, Tony, you see on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of numbers?
I do. I see those
Awesome.
ones with the asterisk.
Yep. So I'm going to recite a number, and that is the line that I am referring to. Fair enough?
Okay.
Awesome. So when we left the house, what we do is, and I'm kind of breaking script, we're going to set up an appointment prior to writing the offer to do a BPO on the property. Now, a BPO is very different than a CMA. A CMA is a comparative market analysis. The purpose of a comparative market analysis is to list the home at a price that will cause action from a buyer to start a negotiation. It's a price to get activity from a buyer so that you could start a negotiation. A BPO is a broker's price opinion. That is a 30-day sales price. In other words, what will this sell for? So sometimes the BPO is higher than list price. So in this scenario, let's hypothetically come to terms that we've already done this, and this is the price that we both agreed to move forward on. Cool. So, all right, Tony, you see on the left-hand side, there are numbers.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to recite a number, and that is the line that I'm referring to. Fair enough?
Okay.
Awesome. So the seller is Robert Kelly and you are Donald, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Are there any other buyers that are going to be on title?
No. Untitled, yes. But on the offer and the mortgage, no.
Okay, fair enough. So line 7 through 9 describe the property. Line 9 is the legal description, and we pulled that straight from the tax records.
Okay.
Now, line 15 through 19 are personal property. So outside of the refrigerator, dishwasher, fans, is there any other personal property that you saw at the property that you would like to be added to the contract?
There was a barbecue in the back.
Okay,
that I'd like.
so absolutely. So we can add a barbecue here. Do you remember the brand?
I don't.
It's all good. We'll ask the listing agent to get a little more clarity. Now, one thing that I want you to keep your eyes open on, you guys see what I just did? One of the things I want you to keep your eye on here, Mr. Buyer, is that I don't see here washer and dryer. So do you have your own washer and dryer?
I do.
You do, awesome. So you don't want us to add the washer and dryer to this contract?
No, that's okay.
Perfect, okay. Now, is there anything that you want to exclude personally, like personal property?
Nope.
Awesome. All right. Now, line 26 is the purchase price. We are offering a purchase price of $480,000. Now, I want to asterisk here, Tony, because we are going to be asking for concessions, which we'll talk about later on in this offer, okay?
Okay.
Awesome. Line 27 is escrow. We're going to be putting 1% in escrow. And escrow is your money, and it stays your money. So as long as we follow the contract that I'm going to overview with you. All right. That escrow of $4,800 is going to be held by Harbor Title, and we are going to be financing 100% of the purchase price because you are getting a VA loan, which is 100% financing. So here we are going to be technically getting $4,800 back because you're not going to be putting anything down. We are going to ask the seller to respond by today. And it says here that they have to do it by the end of today or this offer is null and void. So if we don't hear back from them today, then this offer doesn't exist.
Okay.
We are going to close on or before November 30th, which if we look at the calendar, November 30th is right after the Thanksgiving holiday. So as you know, most places are closed on Thanksgiving and the day after, which means that we have to have everything done by the 25th. It is very important that we speak to your loan officer and that they can get all of the loan done in 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Because these are dead days, and then we're going to close the very next day.
Do VA loans normally take 4 weeks?
That is why, where did we go? That is why we're going to speak to him, and we're going to figure that out together, Anna, because that exceeds the scope of my licensure, and I hate to put loan officers in a bad position because we just put them in one writing this offer on that date. So I'm breaking script. I usually speak to the loan officer and ask them when they can close. And I never put a date there that they don't agree on. Because otherwise, it's bad. Bad. So, that's a very stressful time for everyone, which would mean you'd have a really good Thanksgiving or a really bad Thanksgiving. And usually everyone closes at the end of the month, and having a long holiday before a closing sounds extremely stressful. So, this date is always determined, line 52, by the lender. Not by the buyer, not by the buyer's agent. It's determined by the lender. Correct, Donna. You absolutely speak to the loan officer before writing any offer. In other words, I would do a three-way conversation with the buyer and the lender to come up with a couple of the terms that I'm going to be reviewing here in a couple minutes. So what happens if you know there are going to be multiple offers? Then you do it fast. And you get the loan officer on the phone fast.
That's a
And
good
this
one.
is why it's so important that you have your own loan officer involved, that when you say jump, they go, how high? Not, I'm busy, I'll get back to you next week.
I would get them on the phone before I send that offer in and make it very clear and then send it.
Before I write the offer,
Before
I
I
get
write
them
it.
on the phone.
Yep.
All right. So,
Lee, what would extend closing? Like
whoa. No. We're not doing that. Not doing that right now. Not doing what ifs, could, possibly, somehow, if, then, could, somewhat, sometime in the future, then we can. We'll be here till tomorrow. When we're done, we could do what if possible scenarios. I'm reviewing, and I would tell a buyer what it could possibly, 1,000 things. And you're hiring me to make sure that none of those happen. Yeah. If a buyer starts throwing what if possible, could, then, there's so many variables, guys, 1,000 variables. And it's important that you stay in control when writing this offer too. So Summer, re-ask me that question.
What could extend the closing date?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And the answer is 1,000 different things could get in our way. So if you remember in my consultation with you, we talked about the 52 people that I'm going to manage once we go under contract here. If any of them fall out of line, this bad boy is going to have to be extended. So the good news is you have me in your corner. The bad news is there's 1,000 different things that could get in our way. Fair enough? Cool. So lines 53 through 76 are just variables in this contract, and the property is not subject to lease, so we're not going to check line 68, and we are not going to assign this contract, which means you have every intention of living in here, right, Tony?
Right.
Perfect. Now, section 8 or line 81 is one of our contingencies. The contingency of this section is that you are going to be able to back out of this contract if you cannot get qualified for the loan. And we're going to break down what that looks like. So line 86 states that this contract is contingent upon you obtaining approval for a VA loan. Now, because I spoke to our lender, I'm going to repeat this, because we spoke to our lender, because I spoke to our lender, because I spoke to our lender, they agreed that they can get you loan commitment in 21 days. because I would never put this on the contract without speaking to the lender first. What this 21 days says is that we will get loan commitment ready to close within 21 days. Now, the person who has the most impact on this is you, Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Buyer. Because when the lender asks you for paperwork, you have to get it to them within minutes, not days. Because the longer you stall, the more this date becomes more and more and more difficult. So within 21 days, we will receive loan approval. You will be getting a fixed or adjustable loan, and I very rarely leave this blank. We get the number on the fee sheet, and I would put a couple tenths of a % higher. When we leave it blank, we leave no out for the buyer. I'm going to repeat that. When we leave this blank, we leave no out for the buyer. Prevailing rate. I don't know what prevailing rate means. Prevailing rate means whatever the prevailing rate is. So if the approval says 2.75, I will put 3%, which means that an interest rate not to exceed 3%.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting a loan of 30 years. Now, the next important thing to know is line 91 to 94. Line 91 to 94 is that we will be making loan application.
Lee, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Why, if the loan officer told you the interest rate is going to be 2.7, why do you round it up?
Because this is an out for the buyer. Like if the interest rate all of a sudden, World War III starts and the interest rate jumps to 4%, would that change the buyer's monthly payment?
Yes.
If you represent the buyer, should they be able to back out of the contract if they wanted to?
Yep.
If it's blank, you cannot. I represent buyers. You represent a buyer. Your job is to help them facilitate. And if for whatever reason the interest rate changes drastically, they should have an out should they choose. Now, does that serve you and your commission? No,
No.
it doesn't. Yet I'm in this for the long haul,
Mm-hmm.
which is part of the reason why I've been selling real estate for 15 years. So, line 91 to 94, we are going to submit loan application within 5 days. Now, if you remember, Tony, at the start of our time together, I had asked you if you wanted to create competition. Because when banks compete, you win. And if we could compare fee sheets with each other, we can compare out-of-pocket cost and monthly payment. This section 91 to 94 is our opportunity to now have everyone compete against each other to get you the best deal. And the best deal is the least out of pocket and the lowest monthly payment. So we will have 5 days for you to decide who you want to choose. But those 5 days count against our 21 days. So if you stall too much, we're going to really put your lender in a bind. So line 95 is really important. Your failure to use diligent effort to obtain loan approval during the loan approval period, 21 days, shall be considered a default under the terms of this contract. In other words, If the lender asks you to send in paperwork, it is your duty to get it in as soon as possible. So now, as we fast forward, line 144, we are going to collect a $495 transaction fee because, quite honestly, we're going to go above and beyond and provide the most amazing service possible. This is a fee that the broker charges, and it's standard across the way. But here's the good news, Tony. If we don't close, you don't owe $1. Fair enough? Awesome. Now, line 145. We are going to make sure that we have clean title within 2 weeks of the closing date. If we do not have title evidence, clean title, we will be able to back out of the deal. Because you do want clean title on the property, right?
Right.
Yeah, me too. Line 164, we have checked off the Miami-Dade provision. Would you believe that out of the 70 counties in the entire state, Miami and Broward are the only 2 counties in the entire state that use a certain type of title? It's crazy. They use just a certain type of title that none of the other counties use, and we're going to say that the seller is obligated to pay for $200 to continue the abstract title. Abstract title. We're going to get a survey done on the property, and no one's going to buy a home warranty. If you'd like a home warranty, I can guide you on that. And a home warranty will protect all major appliances inside the property, like the air conditioner, like the roof, like the plumbing, like the electrical. So if you'd like to know more about that, be sure to just let me know and I'll guide you on the best plans available. Line 185 says that the seller will pay all assessments. Now, this is not condo assessments. This is city assessments. This is saying that the city will pay them all in full prior to closing. Now, we're going to make sure that the property is not in a flood zone. And if you're going to need flood insurance, we've already spoken with the lender about the possibility of that. But we have a contingency in there to figure out if flood insurance is mandatory. So now the last part of the contract that we've changed is the inspection period. So we're going to have 7 days, and we're going to be sure that we're diligent in assuring that we have the right property. However, within 7 days upon receiving the inspection, we can back out of the transaction. So we're going to have 7 days, right to inspect, right to cancel for whatever reason. And we're going to get the inspection ordered right away. And our transaction coordinator will be sure that we are diligent and on top of it. Now, the next several pages is just the small fine print of the contract. Now I'm going to get to the last page. Line 571 starts additional terms. This states, seller will contribute $15,000 towards buyer's closing costs and prepaids. Seller to contribute $15,000 towards buyer's closing costs and prepaids. So if you recall, our offer was written at $580,000. With $15,000 coming back to you at closing, it means we really offered the seller $565,000. Now, Tony, do you remember what the list price was?
It was $529.
$629.
But the offer for yeah, sure.
It was $629, and we're writing an offer of $565, which is about 13% under what the seller was hoping to get. Just want you to be prepared that the seller is most likely going to counter us. However, $15,000 should cover the majority of your closing costs. With the VA loan, you should be getting into the property with very little, if any, money out of pocket. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Yeah. And we're going to make sure that there's no open violations, liens, or expired permits, no drama on title. We're also going to ask the seller to please remove all of their crap before closing. So when we do our walkthrough, we're going to make sure that there's no debris and no stuff inside the property. We also want a seller's disclosure within 3 days of them accepting our offer, because I want you to hear from the seller's mouth what they know about the property. So I skipped over section 19, which starts on line 569. These are the addendums to the purchase contract. We're going to review those addendums now. Shameless plug, in 25 minutes, a high-powered attorney is going to be reviewing these addendums with you from our office. Ariana of Harbor Title will be reviewing all of these addendums with you shortly in 25 minutes. Back to script. So we've added the VA addendum and an appraisal contingency addendum. Shall we review them, Tony?
Yes, please.
Awesome. So this is the VA and FHA addendum. VA and FHA are government loans that hold their property to a higher standard. So in our case, we have checked VA financing, and if the property does not meet VA standard, we are able to back out of the contract.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that the seller has to remedy, but it gives you the option of getting out of the contract, okay? The last addendum is the appraisal contingency. What this is stating is that if the property doesn't appraise at $480,000, then the seller can meet appraisal or you can back out of the contract. In other words, I'm protecting you and your offer. That's what you would expect me to do, right, Tony?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top. We just reviewed the entire contract. What I want you to see is on the bottom left of every page, there's a spot for you to initial. Initialing each page validates the page and makes it part of the offer. So you can see on the bottom, there are places for you to initial. You're going to initial through. And on the last page, you are going to execute the contract, as well as the addendums on the top, making them part of the offer. So Tony, you ready to put this offer forward?
I'm ready.
Oh, I'm excited to go to war for you. Let's rock and roll. So,
Is everybody in this class getting this contract, copy of the contract?
Yes. Lee, can I ask you something?